Hi everyone, Tim Kitzer from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, and they're not. You're watching Big Rye and the Fat Guy. Fine, I'll say it. Boom shakalaka.
I don't know if anyone actually likes the Lions. What's up, YouTube? It's the NFL Picks Against the Spread video for Week 2 of the NFL season. Fat Guy, we had a very strong Week 1, 9-4-1. So far, still Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football to play, so we don't know the results, but it doesn't matter. On to Week 2, Thursday Night Football. New York Giants travel to Washington to take on the football team, who are 4-point favorites at home. 70% of early bettors are on Washington. Who you got?
Well, it's not necessarily who I got, and it's not necessarily who I think. We couldn't really do this in past weeks, past week singular. But we're going to be doing this. This video is coming out very early, and these lines are very early lines. And the whole idea, what we're going to try and be explaining this, or that didn't really make much sense. The whole idea this year is to beat the closing line, and what that means is get closing line value. Can I get a better number now than I could on Sunday? And the reason that you want to do this is because the equilibrium line, the line that in the comment section, I actually wrote a reasonable comment to a user that thought I was crazy for saying it was negative to bet on both sides of one game. There are games like that. Maybe this one in this instance, I believe it was Tennessee, Arizona, or Arizona blowing out Tennessee on the road. I guess in hindsight, you could draw any conclusion you want to, but you have to think it in terms of simulation. You know what I mean? In that median crux, in that median deviation, like on both sides, how far does it stray from the commission that you pay and the point spread, right? And a lot of times, if you were to do a simulation on a game, you would end up where you'd lose on both sides because the results would be so close. So the NFL markets are really, really efficient, and that tends to be the case a lot, right? So guys that bet, when you bet on Sunday at the death, like, you tend to be betting into the most efficient market. It's not always this way, but I mean, just think about it. Like they've been, NFL's of them probably the most popular sport on a per game basis. Big Rye, would you agree with that statement?
In North America, yeah.
Yeah. So think about how much data they have and how efficient each market is getting. Like, so and also too, you don't have an asymmetry of information. You're looking up stuff on the internet, and if you went really deep, like, you're still crawling through someone's social media to find some injury stuff, which probably won't happen, and it's too late by game time. So when the line first comes out, that's when the book's most vulnerable. Now, I know we're going long on this one, but this is a precursor to everything that we're going to do, and it's going to be woven into the fabric. So a lot of these games will go quickly, but I have to go a little bit longer on this. Another thing that happens is the limits are a lot lower. Now, this is the interesting part, though. The limits for these are still, $1,500 to $3,500 on some of these games, which sounds like an insane amount, but think about the highest professionals. That's actually not that much money, right? So the book is the most vulnerable to those players. So there's still, if you're a dime better, $1,000 or $100 a casino, $10, you're going to be able to poach some value right away. We're actually filming this during Sunday Night Football, and why? Because we want to get the earliest lines possible so that we can get closing line value. Now, I'm going to define that before we jump into New York and Washington, and what that means is, will this number be better than the number that's going to be offered a few minutes before kickoff on Sunday, or in this case, Thursday? So the New York Giants, say we take the Giants +4 and it moves to Giants +5.5 or Washington -5.5, we've lost 1.5 points of value. Say it moves to, Washington -2.5, we've gained 1.5 points of value. And not all points are equal, because, the difference between 4 and 2.5 is enormous, because the key number 3 is the most key number in football betting. So now we get to the game, and this sounds horrible, but I'm really indifferent. I don't think that there's going to be closing line value in this game. We can't just spill the beans on exactly how to ascertain that value, but we're going to be making these prognostications, and then throughout our membership, we're going to be slowly peeling the onion on how. That being said, I can take the Giants and the points in the contest. It's purely a contest pick, because I'm not sure I can get a closing line value in this contest.
Next up onto Sunday's games, Denver at Jacksonville. Jacksonville 6-point underdogs at home. 89% of early bettors are on the Broncos.
Here we go. This is the opposite, right? It's 89% of a really, really early market. Big Red, could you look up that number as I go a little bit longer on this one?
What's that, sorry?
The number of bets for this game.
Oh, yeah, it's 214 so far, so not very many at all.
Yeah. And we're expecting, let's say 10,000 at least. It seems like more this season, maybe 20.
It's going to be way more. So let me just briefly take a look at week 1 and see where stuff closed. We have the lowest number so far is 30,000, and that's because the game hasn't been played. It's tomorrow. So the lowest that we're looking at, 44,000 bets. It's a huge range, anywhere from 44,000 to 105,000 bets, at least tracked from Action Network. So a lot more betting numbers this year, which means the markets should be even stronger as far as indicating information.
And what he means by stronger is possibly more efficient, more difficult to beat, right? So if there's only 214 bets, there's no contrarian going with the Jags because this sample is nothing. Think of voting. This is one apartment complex in a city. You know what I mean? It's not enough. So do I want to be contrarian? Do I still believe in contrarian theory? Absolutely. I think it generates value. But do I think this number 6 is of value for the Broncos? Yeah, I think this line is going to move. And I think a lot of you would agree with me. What do you think the public sentiment is on the Jacksonville Jags at the moment? Because largely going in, Houston Texans are considered one of the worst teams in recent memory, maybe slightly more vaunted than, if that's even a word to use in this case, than Hugh Jackson's Cleveland Browns. And they had a blowout victory. So what we're going to try and do is be preemptive on the recency bias of the public. They are probably going to bet the Broncos, right? So I think a Broncos bet here at 6 is a nice number. And then here's the other thing that's really funny. If it reaches Broncos 7.5, I might buy back on the Jags, and now I get a middle at 7. We'll go over middling, and that'll be probably a membership video for Ask the Fat Guy down the line. But that being said, I think there's closing line value. I think this line will move to 7, potentially 7.5. But I bet you it's going to go 7. My prediction is 7 with bad juice, -7 with bad juice for the Broncos, leaving me a nice sliver of value at -6.
And
Broncos -6.
Just to highlight it's very, very minute, but it's still something to talk about. That Denver opened, at least at Pinnacle, -6, -105, but the juice is pushed up to -108. And I know you guys are saying, oh, the difference between -105, -108, it's negligible, but it's not. Like,
no, it's
this
not.
is, we're talking about, there might be like less than 100 bets placed at Pinnacle on this game, and whatever happened with those 100 bettors and those smaller values decided to push the juice up. So it's what Fat Guy's talking about, that the line has already moved. Even though the number hasn't moved, the sentiment has already moved in Denver's favor very, very early on in this market's lifetime.
And let's be honest, too. If you are going to move the line, think about it. There's only, let's say, 200 bets at Pinnacle. And they're limited bets. So why are they moving it? Who's betting? Chances are it's probably top handicappers who want to get the best price possible. So they won't be able to get a lot of money down at a good line. So they kind of make a compromise with the book. The book offers this price to test the market. They test the number, and then the bettors bet. And then and this is the other thing too, is professionals don't just bet to bet. They bet if there's value. And like I really think there's value on the Broncos -6. Now, this is an exercise that we're doing, not in terms of, oh, I want to get a bet down, I should bet Denver. It's about betting Denver at the right price. And if all our users start betting early markets, I don't know what's going to happen. It's very interesting, but believe me or not, I believe this is really the best way of going. So Denver -6 is going to be my selection for closing line value. And in the contest, we have to bet early, so 6 it is.
Next up, Houston at Cleveland. Cleveland's 11.5-point favorites early on. There is no market data yet, so really this line is out, and Action Network doesn't actually have betting percentages. So we don't have any betting percentages to go off, Fat Guy. So what do you think about this price of 11.5?
I'm kind of neutral on it. I don't really tend to lay double-digit favorites. Houston is usually the pick we're going to go with. I would need more market factors, but I don't see an urgency to bet either or, right? So I think in the contest I'm just going to take Cleveland because of perhaps recency bias on the Houston Texans. I hate laying points like this. It's not my style, and I'm admitting it. And I could regret it in the long run, but I think Houston exceeded expectations with such a dominant performance, and maybe that just speaks to a weak performance from Jacksonville. But we're going to be laying the points here, and I'm too uncertain about closing line value. So this is one to watch, right? Because it's a team that because if Houston got blown out, it would make it a lot easier to forecast. But there were strong performances from both teams. Cleveland wasn't really was a reasonable underdog against Kansas City, had an excellent performance. But again, nothing really matters inside of a one-game sample, but to the public it does. They're going to overreact. So we want to pounce on recency bias. I just don't see that opportunity. So it's purely a contest pick. We'll be taking the Cleveland Browns. We're going to lay 11.5 points.
Next up, Buffalo at Miami. Miami 3.5-point underdogs, pretty much 50-50 so far with early bettors.
Yeah, that's interesting. This one leads me to believe that there is closing line value on Miami. I'm not sure how strong it's going to be, but think about Miami beating New England and Buffalo losing to Pittsburgh. I think that'll stick out in people's heads, and I think this could settle around 3. Doesn't that seem? It seems like the most likely scenario for me is that Miami Dolphins are 3-point underdogs. So the half point is everything. I like Miami. I'll be betting them tonight as long as I get 3.5 good juice.
Yeah, right now the juice, it opened at -109. It's pushed to -110, but it just shows you that they think that early bettors are probably going to come into Miami at that number. Next up, Fat Guy, the LA Rams travel to Indy to take on the Colts, who are 4-point underdogs. Pretty much everybody is on the Rams early. This is a line that is not from Pinnacle, so Pinnacle doesn't have lines up for teams that are currently playing or expecting to play, and there's a good reason why, right, Fat Guy? Like if Matthew Stafford tears his ACL during this game, this line probably won't be 4 for the Rams.
Or 2 guys get hurt, right? So there's often a really good argument if you are betting is to bet bet negatively against a team that still has a game to come, because you know what I mean? If this line is set for both teams to be equal and there's no I guess injury clause, you could end up with a really good number or an average number where you're losing a little bit of juice, or you have a massive number where you're a huge favorite, right? Because I mean, look at the Indy line last week. Because of injuries and uncertainty, it was at -2.5, and then it closed at +3. Like, it's a huge swing, a massive swing. These things can happen. That being said, the Rams are kind of doing well in the game. We have it on the background. So I think this is a neutral for me. It's going to be purely a contest pick. I'm going to lay the 4 with the Rams. And that's just because I think the recency bias could allow for some closing line value, but it's so much speculation. And this is purely a really early contest pick because, hey, this is early Sunday night. So I'm going to lay the 4 with the Rams against the Colts, who I also think is a strong team. This is a game I just want to watch. So this is a contest pick for me, Rams minus the 4 points.
Next up, San Fran at Philly. Philly 3-point dogs at home. 4% of early bettors are on Philly. Fat Guy, who you got?
Another thing, I'm not sure if there's going to be closing line value. I think it might just settle on 3, to be honest. Philly having an unbelievable performance, and the 49ers kind of letting off the gas a little bit here. I feel like the Niners should be bigger favorites, but at the same token, they're still traveling west to east, and they have to lay 3 points, and that's probably about right for me. So I'm going to call this another neutral. I'll just take Philly in the 3. There's probably a lot of pros perhaps loading up on San Francisco, and this is one market we should watch. How many bets do we have on this game, Big Rye?
Let me take a look and see.
Sorry, we got to fill the dead area a little bit, but I got to put them on the spot to keep them active here.
There's 176 so far on Action Network, and The juice is slightly moved in favor of San Fran, opening at -108 and now at -110. So very, very briefly, it looks like there might be actually there's speculation that this line is more likely to go to San Fran 3.5 than it is to go to Philly 2.5.
Yeah, that's possible. But like I said, I don't have strong indications other than what you had just said that's a possibility. So this is just purely going to be a contest pick, and we'll take the Eagles and we'll take the 3 points.
Next up, we have the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to Chicago to take on the Bears, who are 3-point favorites at home. No market data. So what do you think about this opening?
Well, it's the Bears are playing right now. I would like the Cincinnati Bengals here. They pulled off a victory against the Minnesota Vikings, giving them potentially some recency bias because it was an upset. Not a huge one, but still an upset. And also the Bears at this current moment aren't having as good a performance as one would like. So there is a chance that there could be a do-up, do-down situation in the minds of the public. So 3 points on the road. I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals, but I'm not sure. This would just, again, be a neutral and just a contest pick for me. I'll be taking the Bengals in the 3 points.
Next up, Raiders at Steelers, who are 6-point favorites at home. 57% of early bettors are on the Steelers, and it's 138 bets so far.
This is a tough one because the Raiders haven't even played. That's tomorrow. So if I were betting today, I would be, I'd be more interested in understanding this line from a Steelers perspective, but I think this line's probably about right. Obviously, the game could change it. So many things in the game tomorrow could change it. So it would be a no bet for me and just a contest pick, and I'll just be a little bit of a homer and take the Raiders. But these ones are really interesting, and it's one that I'm going to focus in on a bit more, is when because this is technically a look-ahead line because the game hasn't even happened yet, right? And the Raiders can really only be affected negatively, like we'd mentioned, because the Steelers already came out of their game intact. As far as I know, at least, no major injuries. Of course, a report could come out tomorrow and change everything. But I think at this look-ahead line, I'll just do a pure contest pick and take the Raiders. It's 6 points. I mean, I think they have a reasonable chance at upsetting the Ravens, and I think that could bring this line down a little bit, even though the Steelers, I guess, upset the Bills. Even though I disagreed with that assessment, I thought the line was a little bit inflated on the Bills, and I got the right result. Whether that's true or not, that remains to be seen. We only saw one game sample. So purely contest pick, I'm going to be taking the Las Vegas Raiders. Almost said Oakland.
Pats, Jets. Jets are 3.5-point underdogs. 17% of early bets are on the Jets, and it looks like the juice is moved in favor of New England actually quite a bit. This is one of the largest ones we've seen, from -105 to -113. Fat Guy, even in the Discord, this is a interesting one that a lot of people are talking about. What are your thoughts on it?
It's my second favorite one. I think there's going to be massive closing line value. Not massive because the key numbers can't be too big, but I don't think you're going to get better than 3.5. I think that people are going to pile on the Patriots. They had a really close affair against a good Miami team. The performance was there. The Jets had the Jets, had some perils at the helm of a rookie quarterback, and I think squares are going to think about that's going to be in the back of their brain is going to be Belichick against a rookie quarterback or what have you. So I think that there's going to be public money and pro money on the Eagles, but pro money to a point. Eventually they'll buy back on the Jets, right? So there could be some Jets value midweek and perhaps even at the closing line, although I don't advise it as much. Why not just get the best price on the better team? I think laying the 3.5 with the Patriots is the right move here because I could see this line going to 6. How many bets are there right now?
214.
214, yeah. So and the juice has moved 8 points. What does that tell you? So if you were on it right away and you could spot this line, this is probably a really good price on the Patriots. And this line, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it lands on Patriots -5.5, Patriots -6. And that sounds like a crazier number, but it's the key number the only key number between those is 4, and if it goes to 6, a push frequency on 6. So that's not as like massive as like going from a +2 to +3.5. That would be way bigger. But and in any event, Patriots -3.5, I think, has closing line value. So we're going to be selecting them in the contest purely for that reason.
Next up, Saints at the Panthers. Panthers 2.5-point dogs at home. 15% of early bettors on the Panthers. 163 bets so far. And I'm just taking a look to see. The juice has moved heavily in the favor of the Saints from -108 at open to -131. So this line is already pretty much at 3 at this point.
So if you were, because I was going to suggest here is that if you, I think there's insane close. This is my favorite one, is New Orleans -2.5. Obviously, who do you think's everyone loves New Orleans performance. The even though it's just one game sample, the Jameis Winston question has been answered for lots of people, and I think 2.5 is a good number here. I think equilibrium here is 3 to 3.5 for the Saints. So I think there's a middling opportunity. I think obviously at the time of this video you've missed it because the juice going from when you so did you say Big Red -108 to -130,
-131 as far as I can see right now.
That might be we don't have the extrapolation. Like -2.5 with heavy juice will equate to -3 at a certain number of juice. I don't have it right in front of me, but I would imagine that it is already -3 probability wise. I know that sounds insane and crazy, but everything has they're alternate lines. They all can line up probability wise. And so, yeah, I think this is one of those ones where if you saw it, you should just buy it instantly. And I think too, if you were somehow able to have gotten this, if you're one of the few hundred people that got the gift of New Orleans -2.5, you might be able to get a closing line buyback on the Carolina Panthers, and then you could argue about paying bad juice or paying juice twice. But I think there is a chance that a middle play was possible in this scenario, because I think this line's going to move to Carolina +3.5. And then you get the the holiest of holies, the New Orleans by 3, a middling play where either you pay the juice or you win both bets, one on New Orleans -2.5 and the other on Carolina +3.5. So this is my favorite numeric play of the week. Obviously you guys will get to see it and compare, but I like the New Orleans Saints -2.5 because I think the closing line value on this is going to be tremendous.
Next up on to Minnesota at Arizona. Arizona 4.5-point favorites at home. No betting percentage information or 201 bets. Very, very updated news. The Vikings actually have 9% of early bets. So everybody's on Arizona. Let me see if I can find the juice as well. The juice is Minnesota +4.5 at -110. Arizona is even.
Okay, that's a little bit interesting too, though. I had this marked down as a neutral. I'm just going to be taking the points and purely for the contest. But I do think there should be some more money placed on the Cardinals. But I don't think that this number is really too far from the truth. So for that being said, is there closing line value? I don't think so too. So also too, you have to think about there is a small opportunity cost to betting early. Not like really, really small. We talked about it a lot in futures. But you do have to tie up your money for a week rather than rolling it over, trying to earn those, a few micro percentage points daily, as some people do, roll over their bankrolls. So there is a very small opportunity cost. It's not a future, but it could be considered a mini future. But that being said, this is purely a contest pick. I'll be taking the Vikings, and that's because I'm not sure that there's going to be closing line value despite all of the early bets being put on the Cardinals.
This one's interesting to me. Atlanta at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay 13.5-point favorites. 47% of early bettors are on Tampa. 176 bets. But what's interesting to me is that Atlanta opened +13 at -102. It's now gone up to +13.5 at -117.
Well, that what that does speak to me, though, is that perhaps equilibrium here is 14, but I have it marked down as a neutral only because the speculation, the gap in win probability between 13.5 and 14, I mean, there is one, right? Like you'd have an advantage, but I don't think, considering the margin of error, it's not like I'm picking which side which side's going to have closing line value 100%. I'm going to pick one side that I think has closing line value, and the line moves against me. This is also another tied in probability. And what we're talking about is almost gambling on gambling. You're gambling on which way a number is going to go to get an advantage on a future bet, which is kind of interesting to think about in the long term. But I do feel this is the best way, and I'll be reinforcing that all season long. This is purely a contest pick. I'll just take Atlanta. It's a double-digit dog in a divisional contest. Atlanta is due down. Due up. The Bucs are due down, considering they have a lot of clout going into this game, considering they won the Super Bowl and they pulled off a thrilling victory in front of a very large Thursday night audience. So defending Super Bowl champions tend to have a little bit of, like I'd mentioned, a little bit of extra percentage points added to them, which makes me think that this is just a neutral at Atlanta plus 13.5. So I might consider it down the road. But as far as closing line value, I could see it landing on 14, or just sitting right here. And my suspicion is it's probably going to stay right here. But again, I could be wrong, and we could review my thought process, or at least my prognostication, to see whether or not that's true. So it's in a purely contest pick. I'll be taking at this moment Atlanta plus 13.5.
Next up, Dallas at LAC. LAC 3-point favorites at home, 17% of early bettors. Just over 200 bets have been placed. Interesting to note here with the juice that the Cowboys are minus 119 at plus 3. LA Chargers at plus 108. So there is a chance that this is more likely to go to Dallas 2.5 than it is Chargers 3.5.
Yeah. But that does indicate a shift that Dallas are going to be 2.5-point underdogs and the Chargers 2.5-point favorites. I think this number will probably bounce around though and end up at 3, right? There could be, maybe the public money is what they're waiting for on the Chargers, and perhaps the pros do like the Cowboys. At least that's the early indication. I have it marked down as a neutral, and I think 3 ends up being the number at the end. I mean, we'll have to see. It could be 2.5, like it seems to be early after this really early line shift. But I have it down as a neutral, and I'm just going to be taking the LA Chargers purely as a contest pick. But this is one I want to see. I want to see what people, how the market acts in terms of this game, considering there's some what looks to be early pro action on the Dallas Cowboys. So in a purely contest affair, I'm going to be taking a contest pick rather. I'm going to be taking the LA Chargers, but I'm really curious to see how this market takes shape as the bets come pouring in.
And then the final midday game on Sunday, Tennessee at Seattle, who are 6-point favorites at home. 34% of early bettors are on Seattle. Only 163 bets so far in this game. The line has moved. The juice has moved very, very slightly in favor. Like, it's not even worth talking about. But Tennessee at plus 6 at minus 111 is the favorite side, I guess you can say, as far as the juice is concerned.
Well, I think this lines up with what I have it down here. I have this down as a neutral in terms of closing line value. I think that the Tennessee Titans are at 6 points for a contest pick are worthy, but in terms of this line, it's probably going to be about right. I could see I only see the juice moving at 6, and perhaps with public money because of it's the Seattle pulling off a nice win and Tennessee having a pretty devastating loss in terms of a rout against Arizona, shifting maybe the line to Seattle minus 6.5. But that half point isn't worth the speculation for me because I'm not confident enough in my assessment, because there's always a margin of error. And I talk a lot about that with when I did a video on bankroll management for the memberships. I do an Ask a Fat Guy every Wednesday, and that was the first subject I tackled. And in Kelly Criterion, which is a type of bankroll management, there's only the margin of error for optimism is 0. And I have to think about that in terms of everything I do. I have a margin of error because everything's just an estimation there is, right? Like the amount of times it lands on 6, it's just it's a complete estimation, right? Obviously, we get more fine-tuned as the years go by, but there's still a margin of error. And I'm not willing to gamble that closing line value for half a point, if I were to say take Seattle. So in a contest, purely a contest pick, I'll be taking the Tennessee Titans. I'll be taking 6 points.
And then Sunday Night Football, this is going to be a 5-star entertainment game,
is.
pardon the pun. The Chiefs, 2.5-point favorites on the road, 96% of early bettors on the Chiefs, 353 bets so far. This opened at 2.5, minus 105 for Kansas City. It's been pushed up just slightly for Kansas City to minus 107. Fat Guy, what do you think about this market?
I really like Kansas City at minus 2.5. I can't believe I'm saying that. I never get to pick them. Never do. And this is one of those instances. I think there's a lot of closing line value in Kansas City 2.5, especially because the Ravens line has moved against them. They have a slew of injuries. And what happens now is they're kind of at like, normally I don't really care about like running back injuries, but I care about cluster injuries, right? And, if there's 3 injuries at a position, i.e. running back for the Baltimore Ravens, that kind of puts a bog down because you can't really have competent replacements ready when that many players go down. Also, too, that makes them thin in other spots, considering the cornerback injury to Marcus Peters, and they haven't played a game yet. So this is technically a look-ahead line. So if things go bad in Las Vegas, I don't see how Kansas City doesn't become 3.5, 4-point favorites, something like that. So I like this as a total buy on Kansas City at the moment, but then also I need you guys to look out for a possible middling play in getting Kansas City minus 2.5 and potentially the Ravens at plus 3.5 or further. I would need 3.5, and I would need at worst 11 to 10 minus 110 juice, because I can get that middle number of 3 at minus 2.5 Kansas City plus 3.5 Ravens. Again, this is speculation, but I do think there is a better chance of it. And also too, there's been some virus protocol hiccups, let's say, from the Ravens, and they don't really talk about their the team's total vaccination status. So I think there might be an edge there in terms of someone missing a game because of COVID protocols. So yeah, this is apolitical statement purely. I'm trying to find edge as a gambler. That's how sick this is. And I like the idea of taking the Chiefs this is a look ahead line at minus 2.5, because there could be negative ramifications from there really only can be negative ones, because even if they get a blowout against Las Vegas, I don't see this line moving. It just stays still. So either I get a line that's stagnant or I get a really good line. And I like those opportunities. Like, I like that proposition, right? Like, I don't really see how things can go wrong, assuming there isn't some big injury out of Kansas City, but nothing during that game or afterwards would indicate that, any of the reports. Of course, things can happen tomorrow when guys wake up and they notice something, but I do think that Kansas City offers enormous closing line value in this spot. And I rarely say that, especially in terms of Kansas City is just it's a square team because they're the most exciting team, probably the best team in the National Football League.
And the other thing I want to add in is that Fat Guy mentioned it earlier, but there is certain players that have way more variance to when they play. And I'm talking about the obvious answers like Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. Mahomes made it through this game unscathed week 1. Lamar Jackson still to play week 1. So he, despite all the other stuff, he could still get hurt in this game, might be out. And I'm guessing that the public is going to have a reaction if he was not to play this game due to injury or whatever other reasons. So he's a high variance player. So meaning that taking Kansas City now, knowing that they are more likely to be healthy going into week 2 is an advantage early on. Whether we like whichever team or not, it doesn't matter. It's just pure facts that Baltimore still has to play an entire game with all their players and stay healthy through, which is an interesting thing to think about if you are able to get in on a line like this, which this line is up at Pinnacle, which I'm surprised by. I'm sure the totals are lower than probably every other game because they're still going to play. The limits, thank you. But just an interesting thing to think about. Fat Guy, Monday Night Football, Detroit at Green Bay. Green Bay's 10.5-point favorites. 86% of bettors are on the Packers. 138 bets so far. And let me just flip over on the day. The juice, it opened Green Bay minus 107. They're down to minus 106. So not really much of a change as far as juice is concerned.
This is one where it's like, okay, it's not crazy or anything. It's the lightest grade I could give it. But I do think there is closing line value on the Detroit Lions. I think it's a buy now. I really do. 10.5 points is a nice. It's a nice number here.
Yeah.
And also too, people might be sour on Green Bay because they really got blown out. And I've already seen memes which were so ridiculous about Aaron. I've seen Aaron Rodgers. I've been, I hate memes and stuff like this, but I've seen Aaron Rodgers memes already in chat groups I'm in that I usually have muted, like of him, jokingly saying that he's washed up or whatever. Just the insane reactionary type responses to like one bad performance. Like, we're talking about like a Hall of Fame returning MVP. But the perception might change it. So I'm not saying the guys are going to run out to the booth or open their laptop and bet on the Lions, but they might not bet. They might just not bet on Green Bay. They might not add it to their parlay leg, even though they like doing all favorites, which I highly advise against. That being said, it might create a slight market imbalance for the Lions. It is possible. So, I mean, this is very speculative. I do think there is a tiny bit of closing line value on the Lions. I'm going to be buying now. And it has shifted in their direction already 1 point. You know what I mean? So 86% of bettors have bet on Green Bay, but the money is probably slightly heavier on the Lions, meaning that perhaps the max look ahead bets, or it's not look ahead, but the max early market bets are on the Lions. So that makes me even slightly more confident. So I'm going to take the Lions, hoping that there's closing line value at 10.5. Because even if it goes to 10, I'm happy. I know there's margin of error, but I think there's stronger indicators. So I have a smaller margin of error than the other ones that I said were too speculative for me to try and ascertain closing line value. So by the thinnest of margins, I'll currently take the Detroit Lions plus 10.5. And I don't think they're a good team. We're talking about covering a 10.5 point spread, which is, I mean, you're spotting the other team a touchdown and a half. You know what I mean? Like, they're still professional athletes, okay? So we'll take Dan Campbell's Lions plus 10.5 points, and hopefully I can gain a little bit of closing line value and it doesn't go the other way and put pie on my face.
Fat Guy, we're going to take a look at your picks. New York Giants at Washington.
Judges Giants.
Denver at Jacksonville.
Fangio's Broncos.
Houston at Cleveland.
This many points? Stefanski's Browns.
Buffalo at Miami.
The Flores Dolphins.
Rams at Colts.
McVay Rams.
San Fran at Philly.
Sirianni Eagles.
Cincinnati at Chicago.
The Taylor Bengals.
Raiders Steelers.
The Gruden Grinders.
New England at the New York Jets.
Billy's Pats.
New Orleans at Carolina.
Peyton's Place. The New Orleans Saints.
And Minnesota at Arizona.
The Zim Reapers, Minnesota Vikings.
Atlanta at Tampa Bay.
Arthur Smith's Atlanta Falcons.
Dallas at LAC.
I already forgot this coach's name. He's a rookie, and I don't remember. LA Chargers.
I think it's Staley.
Tennessee.
Yeah. Tennessee at Seattle.
We'll take Vrabel's Titans.
Kansas City at Baltimore.
Reed's Chiefs.
Detroit at Green Bay.
The knee-biting Lions.
And then Fat Guy onto the overall leaderboard, and there's a familiar name in the number one spot. It's like, what's that Bill Murray movie? Groundhog Day? That's what it feels like to me.
You guys listen to Big Rye? He can't even reference Groundhog Day. Highly recommend. Excellent movie. Barely get it off. Cassone won 9 games in a row, I believe, to start.
Yep.
It's just legend. You know, I hope he does it again. I'll be happy to pay him. You better figure out a cryptocurrency wallet by year's end, Cassone, because I'm not paying $9 to send you a check again.
Then on to the JS715 Name of the Week Honorable Mentions, Fat Guy.
This is the best Name of the Weeks I've ever seen. I could have put 20 in. No word of a lie. I'm missing some, and I felt guilty about some. They're really, really good. But we got to get through it. We got to plow through it. I went for the more dicier ones, as you probably noticed. Deshaun's masseuse number 21. Of course, Deshaun Watson's legal team pushing to reveal every female's name in the lawsuit. But according to this one, this masseuse will be named, possibly not female even, will be remain anonymous at number 21. And then following that is Let's Bust Gas Fat Guy. I don't know what that means. It sounds a little bit crying game type, homoerotic, but we'll go with it, and it made me laugh. Big Rye Haircut GoFundMe account. It's not that this was the best name. It's just, look at this guy's hair. He looks horrible. He looks like some junky skeezer. Big Rye needs a makeover. And this is coming from me. I'm named the fat guy. Not exactly appealing to the eyes. We got some ugly mugs on here. We might have to do something about it. And I probably shouldn't have worn a shirt that has grease stains that I'm sweating through. All right, we followed up with Fat Guy Hates the Vikings like Dan Campbell hates to win. This is an inside joke in reference to, cue the music if we remember, Dylan Todd Field always thinking I hate things, when in reality I'm just picking one side against another. Clever win. I like the topical nature. It ties right in. Speaking of topical, Bill O'Brien has paper hands. We're in the generation of internet meme stocks, and paper hands is a very it's an interesting investment term, which ties in right in with Bill O'Brien, who evidently has paper hands. Carl Nassib's unborn child. I'll let you guys figure that one out. Lions sing the Honolulu Blues. I think that's in reference. See, again, topical. Along with Carl Nassib, also had some news this summer. The Lions perhaps regretting their right tackle, who might be playing left tackle, in Penei Sewell, but I thought it was a good draft pick. I would have done the same. It's too early to tell, but there is a chance that they are singing the Honolulu Blues. And in reference to my place of birth, Van City, 69ing in Van City, DM me for sessions. Well, I guess I have options now this weekend.
This is the JS715 Name of the Week. Whoa, kaboom!
I almost didn't pick this person because I have a personal relationship with him, but this was too good for me. It tied in. I made a video about bankroll management. We went over Kelly Criterion, Kelly's Criterion. It just ties in so nice. It's a fantastic. If there was a sports gambling fantasy football type thing that had nothing to do with fantasy football, this would be the name that you would want. R. Kelly's Criterion, JSM15 Name of the Week.
Remember to make your picks against the spread for week 2 at BigRyanTheFatGuy.com. There is a $100 prize in Bitcoin to the regular season winner. Fat Guy, that is it for the week 2 picks video. It's like a little bit of a different pace this week. This video is going to come out earlier. We're talking about getting value now compared to what the line closes at. It's just a change of pace. It's going to be different for people.
Yeah. A lot of people aren't going to like it. But here's the thing. If you come this far in the video, maybe I've piqued your interest. Like, what's this guy talking about? 99% of anyone giving you gambling advice has no skin in the game. They don't actually bet their own money. They don't take bets. They don't do anything. They just say, oh, I like this because of this, and there's a lock. And I think this. Well, thinking is a dangerous thing. Thinking that you have an influence on these games is dangerous. You need to just understand math. It's a pure math game. It's a mostly math game with some human psychology to it. So, but more so math. And we're focusing on trying to get the math down, which is hard enough for us, even though we're two obviously nerds from an appearance standpoint. I mean, look, So yeah, this isn't going to be everyone's pace, but this is the truth. Would you rather us lie to us? Most of you would, but it is what it is.
And that being said, good luck in your selections for week 2.